Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Bases Loaded. I'm Blake Munroe. I'm joined every week by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. And guys, Bruce Bolt Classic Tournament champs, the Texas Longhorns, the undefeated Longhorns. There's all kinds of titles that we could give them right now. But Texas, of course, let's back up to last weekend. They beat Coastal Carolina 8-1. Then they beat Baylor 5-2, and then capped it off on Sunday with a 10-3 victory. They also got the midweek victory. But looking at just the Bruce Bolt Classic, what were y'all's takeaways from this previous weekend?
To me, it was that back half of the lineup. I know I talked about it last week, but you start seeing some of the pop from Timo Becerra coming out with 3 home runs, going to the Adolis Garcia box out there in left field. You like that, Jeff? That's what we're calling the Crawford boxes from now on. But no, I thought that was very encouraging to see that bottom half of the lineup really continue to stay hot. And again, as we move into SEC play here in the next couple of weeks, we right now feel really good about that top 4 to 5 in the lineup. Well, what I saw this past weekend is, okay, now you feel great about 1 through 9. It wasn't just a hot start for Anthony Pack. It wasn't just a hot start for Timo Becerra. This is stuff that you're going to continue to see throughout what I believe to be the majority of the season. Another thing I wanted to point out is moving Carson Tenney up to that 2 spot. Really something to watch there, because, again, that was one of those concerns that I had is, when you have a guy like Tenney who is, for the most part, in a position to hit a home run almost every at bat, or, hey, that K rate might be a little sneaky high considering he chases a lot of off-speed pitches, teams will pitch very cautiously to him, right? Make him and force him to chase a lot of off-speed out of the zone. Well, when you have a guy like Aiden Robbins and Adrian Rodriguez right behind him, now you can't just put him on and pitch around him. That forces you to pitch to him. And as we've seen, the kid loves to hit tanks, and he hit another one in the midweek that I thought could have hit the moon and cleared out of the left field fence. So I like seeing that, and it just deepens that lineup in the top half.
Yeah, the other part about Tenney hitting in the 2-hole now is now at the bottom half of the lineup, when you look at Timo's ability to get on base, Jonah's speed, Pack's speed, now you can set the table for Tenney and Mendoza at the top of the lineup and reset it again. So 1 through 9, now you've got the ability throughout the game for anybody to get on base and anybody to drive them in. I'll flip it around and look at defense and pitching, because this team, knock on wood, through this undefeated start, they've played really clean defensively. And I was talking to Schloss about the pitching stuff after the game, and he said, they were fortunate to get guys in situations where they had to work through some stuff. It was Brett Crossland had to do it on Sunday, and Hayden LeFew had to do it throughout the weekend. Like, there were guys that they had to, whether it's giving up free passes or the other team grinding out a hit, whatever it is. Now you got guys on base. Now you got to shut it down. Now you got to extinguish it and do your job out of the bullpen. They just haven't had a ton of those situations yet. That's the one thing that I'm still kind of cautious of as we get closer to SEC play, because at some point you're going to face much better offenses and you're going to face much better pitching. But the fact that you've been really clean on defense and now your bullpen is starting to pass the tests that at least are put in front of them, which is all you can ask of them, I thought that was a really good positive coming out of the weekend.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned LeFew. We only saw him pitch 1 inning this past weekend against, I think it was Baylor, top of the 7th, if I remember correctly. He only throws 13 pitches. He strikes out all 3 batters. Phenomenal, very quick, phenomenal showing. But here's something for you. LeFew, from what I have been told, he had some setbacks due to injuries. If it wouldn't have been for those, he would have been your Friday night starter for this year. How about that?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That doesn't completely surprise me, just because, did any of us think Ruger was going to be the Friday guy at this point and look as good as he has? And, Blake, we've talked about it for probably since he committed to Texas out of the portal. Like, man, this guy looked like he could be, a really good bullpen piece, a guy that you could use kind of wherever. Now he's your Friday guy. So I think that's the beauty of this staff. Obviously, when we saw it with Volantis closing last year, and now he's in the weekend rotation, I think they've got a few guys like that, probably with the exception of Luke Harrison, who I think has the role pretty much defined for him. That's the beauty of the staff, is you've got guys that could fit into pretty much any role that you need them to. Like, yeah, Thomas Burns right now is your guy that can go get you those last 3 outs of a ball game, but I mean, if they needed Burns to, have an extended outing where he has to go 2-3 innings, there's no way they're freaking out about that. So I just love the versatility of this pitching staff, to your point, Blake.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, can I throw some numbers out on Ruger Riojas? Because, again, like I'm sure both of y'all and many Texas fans, not surprised, I guess, by this start because we saw, glimpses of it a year ago, but the level in which he's dominating at the moment. And, again, this is against teams that we'll certainly see an increase in talent once we get to SEC play. But he's one of 4 pitchers in the country with a K rate over 50%. He has 30 strikeouts to 3 walks. He's hit 2 batters, but that is a fantastic ratio, 10-1 K to walk. Against Coastal Carolina, 65% whiff rate. That's like almost unhittable, right?
Yeah.
That is fantastic stuff. In his 3 starts, he's gone 9 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, 11 strikeouts. That will get you very far in college baseball. And for Ruger Riojas, I'm sure, it's almost a sigh of relief to be back to this level, especially after the back end of last year. But for Texas and specifically, when you can throw out a Friday night guy like Riojas and save a Volantis or a Luke Harrison and mention some of those guys in the back end as well, that just, that's fantastic depth on the hill.
Yeah. And it helps you too. We talked about LeFew getting to bring him slowly. But, one person I was asked about this week was Cade Bean. He's another guy that they're trying to bring along slowly, put some weight back on him. And so they just have so much depth that it's a great problem to have. And speaking of great, we can look at the performance from Sam Cozart over the midweek game. He goes 5-inning pitch, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. So like you said, Jeff, there's just so much versatility. There's so much depth. It's just a great problem to have. And as long as everyone stays healthy, should be good to go.
Yeah, Brody Walls was who I was trying to think of earlier. I mentioned LeFew and Crossland, but Brody Walls was another guy that I know Schloss liked what he saw from him in the Ohio State game on Sunday down at Dakin Park. So, again, it's another bullpen hand we're talking about that looks like he's going to be able to come out and give you quality innings.
Yeah. Well, after the past week's games, only 2 teams remain undefeated, fellas. Texas and USC, both 12-0, and credit to 11.7 baseball for this graphic here. But USC's best start since 2015, Texas since 2005. But you look at that on the screen. Both fairly good stats there. But I don't think anyone saw this coming. I'll just put it that way.
Looking at USC, that being first in the country in team ERA, and what are they in the
88
team OPS? Like that's West Coast baseball in a nutshell. You got to love it. But no, this Texas team. Look, I was thinking about this earlier this week. The best start since 2005. I think one of the best things, the most redeeming quality about that 2005 team, in addition to them winning a national championship, and they went through a ton of adversity that year. They went through injuries.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't beat Baylor to save their lives in the regular season or the Big 12 tournament. They had to go on the road to Oxford to face a really good Ole Miss team and win a super regional. And then, several close wins in Omaha. So, man, that team everybody earns a national championship. Man, that 2005 team freaking earned it every step of the way. That's where I'm with this team, Blake, this 2026 team. They're going to face some adversity at some point. This league is too good. Like, you're going to have a weekend where either you don't play well or you run into somebody playing their A game. How are they going to respond when they get really punched in the face for the first time? We know the talent's there. I love this coaching staff. The intangibles with this group seem off the charts, but hey, the tired, worn out cliche, the old Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got to play until they get punched in the face. Like when this team really faces some adversity and we figure out what they're made of, then we can really start playing out. All right. Yeah. This team really does look like they've got the goods to go win an SEC title and get to Omaha and do some damage there.
Yeah, the thing, I had a couple of numbers written. Obviously, you see the 1.71 team ERA. The OPS is fantastic. The team whip, 0.94. That's elite stuff. That's third in the country right now. Again, that just speaks to the elite level of of pitching that we're seeing from the Longhorns. I also wanted to mention fielding because, look, that was something Schloss mentioned, having coached against Texas teams in the past where, they start the season at the dish and then you move on to natural playing surfaces. And normally it takes a game or two to really get adjusted to natural grass and the dirt. Well, Texas, clean weekend. They're 7th in the country with a .988 fielding percentage, only 5 errors in 12 games, 3 of which came in one game against UC Davis. So, they're getting it done in all 3 facets of the game right now. And I don't know if you could have asked for a better start from this team, given what we're seeing on the hill, at the plate, and in the field.
And Blake, we talked about this going into the season, how strong they had a chance to be. They're better than I thought they were going to be up the middle of the diamond defensively with Tenney, Mendoza, A-Rod at short, and Robbins at center, just because we didn't know A-Rod making that transition to shortstop, how it was going to work. Robbins in center field. Both those guys have been really, really good defensively.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And as we do every week, just a quick look at the polls, and this is actually going to lead us into our next topic here. But number 3 in the majority of them, guys, and then number 5 in Baseball America and 5 in Perfect Game. But the reason I bring this up is some national championship odds were updated right before we started recording this show here. And I'm going to put them up on screen. And Texas, they opened at plus 2,000. Last week, before the Bruce Bolt Classic, they were plus 1,400. Now they are at plus 1,000, which is the 3rd best odds in the country. Oddly enough, number 1 is LSU, which we'll get to here in just a moment, followed by UCLA at number 2, Texas at 3, and then Georgia Tech at 4, which I'm not 100% sold on them. And then Arkansas, Mississippi State are going to round out your 5 spot. But there's, Tennessee, there's some other, this is just the top 10. If you look at that top 20, it's loaded with SEC talent. But what do y'all think about the Horns odds? And then we'll get into some of the other teams on here, especially LSU.
Screams value to me. Look, if you can 10x your money with a nice little investment, why not, right? Texas, to me at least, through, the first 3.5, 4 weeks of the season, I'm not sure what the fatal flaw will be. Typically, you have an idea or something at least peaks up through the first month of the season where you say, okay, I don't know how efficiently team will cover X, Y, and Z in the field. Well, look, Texas, I don't know. Again, we just talked about it. Some of their numbers and where they rank nationally, they're checking every single box. And we've seen teams slip up elsewhere, right? LSU losses to Lafayette, Northeastern, right? UCLA falling to UC San Diego and San Diego State. So we've yet to see that for Texas. And that's why I'm looking at not just these national championship odds, but some of these rankings as well, saying, okay, what else does Texas have to do in these kind of non-conference preseason matchups, if you will, to get to where they need to be atop of the rankings? But altogether, it's early. We'll keep pounding that drum, but they've checked every box for me so far.
Yeah, I don't have a look. LSU is definitely going to drop in the national rankings next week. Even if Texas takes care of business, I would still expect UCLA to be number 1. And that's just because at this point, UCLA's played a tougher schedule. I don't know how you can look at UCLA's schedule and say, yeah, they haven't played, them and Texas have played an equal schedule. Even though, to your point, CJ, like Texas has done everything that's been asked of them to do, everything that they could do. They played the schedule that's been put in front of them. They've looked really good doing it. It's about all you can ask from a team at this point in the year.
No, definitely. Well, the thing that for LSU anyway, when it comes to them, even before back-to-back midweek losses, the thing that really caught my eye about them was their lack of offensive production on their weekend series. Midweek games are one thing. We've talked about midweek games before. It gives you some time to kind of tinker. Obviously those aren't games you want to lose, but their lack of just scoring runs, of getting hits, just in general, has been really surprising to me. So I'm shocked that, and again, this just came out Friday morning, to see that they still have the best odds. And if anybody can fix it, Jake Johnson can fix it, in Baton Rouge. So don't get me wrong. I don't think they're a lost cause by any means, but I'm just shocked at the moment to see that they have the highest odds.
Yeah, by 300% or whatever the ticks are there, right? 600 current odds. The next highest is UCLA at plus 900. So like that. Yeah, I think Vegas is heavily, favoring or siding with LSU that they're going to right the ship here.
Yeah. Public's high on Texas, though, when you look at those percentages at the end. So We're not the only ones banging those drums, fellas. All right. Well, this weekend, Texas will take on USC Upstate. Well-coached team. They made a regional last year. Personally, I don't think we see too much change from what we've seen the previous few weeks. What about y'all?
I expect Texas to come out with a clean weekend. And again, it all starts with what we see with the starting pitching. Look, talented team, but what we've seen so far, I have no reason to think that Texas is in a position to slip up. And, that's kind of the dangerous part of baseball, is that you just expect things to go the right way. And baseball is probably the one sport where variance is at its highest level. And you can see a bad team beat a good team, vice versa, just about every single time that these two teams hit the field. But again, but this start with what we've seen, the consistency of it, the level of play, I think Texas comes away with a 3-0 weekend.
Yeah. One thing I'm interested to see is how Schloss handles the starting pitching this weekend and how Max Wiener handles the starting pitching this weekend. Last weekend, especially Ruger on Friday night, they could have kept him in. I think he was at 71 pitches when he came out of the game. And they were all pretty much low-stress pitches. But wanted to get the bullpen some work. Do you want to get the bullpen some more work this weekend when you figure you have some opportunities? Or do you want to maybe extend Riojas and Volantis a little bit? I don't know. We'll see. But, hey, look, man, if Ruger's going to go out there and do again on a Friday night what he did against Coastal last week, then you should be in a really good position to win the game whenever he leaves.
And then, of course, we start conference play next week against Ole Miss, who Coastal actually knocked off last weekend. Got Ole Miss and Tarleton State will be. Oh, and Texas State, Jeff. Excuse me, I forgot about Texas State on Tuesday. But yeah, man, we're about to really get into the thick of the schedule here, guys.
That's been a good little midweek, home and home that they've had the last few years. All I'll say is, Bobcat fans, please behave yourselves. Just I don't need to hear any reports about slash tires or parking lot incidents or fights on the concourse. Just behave yourselves. Let's enjoy some baseball.
And we will close. I'll close with this, since we always usually close with the question. Now that we're about to enter SEC play, who's the one team that you guys have circled, like the series you're looking to the most this year?
Ooh. What do you think, Jeff?
Other than Texas A&M, just because of everything that's going to go into that series in College Station, look, man, if Chris Beard needed police escorts to get in and out of Lubbock when the basketball team went back, man, Schloss may need, I don't know. He's going to need to be probably heavily guarded, because there are people that really do not want to see him make it back to Austin. I mean, it's the vitriol for that one should be off the charts. But I'm kind of disappointed that there's no LSU series, to be honest. Just looking at the schedule, though, other than A&M, maybe the series at Vanderbilt, probably.
Okay.
Mississippi State. I think that's going to be the best home series. At least it should be. Mississippi State coming to Dish Falk in early May. So I would say Mississippi State, and then it's a toss-up of one of those two road series, either Vanderbilt or Tennessee, other than obviously A&M.
CJ?
I'm going to go a different direction. We'll see if Oklahoma can sustain it. But this start that they've had, I think, has opened the eyes of a lot of many throughout the SEC. That's one that I look at and say, okay, 12-2, you've had wins over Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. They beat the hell out of TCU, right? So we'll see, again, as they get into the depths and the weeds of SEC play, what that series looks like when it comes to Austin. But that's a series right now that I look at and say, if both teams continue on this trajectory, that could be an absolute banger of a weekend.
Yeah, I'm weirdly conflicted for the OU baseball series, just because I want to see Skip Johnson do well. I liked Skip when he was here. I want to see Skip do well. So I would like Skip to do well his entire schedule, except those 3 games when he coaches against Texas.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Texas fans may disagree, but nothing wrong with
that.
Yeah,
and that's the conflict part, Blake. It's like, okay, do I really want Oklahoma to do well in baseball? No, not really. But, the fact that Skip is the head coach there makes it more palatable. But, hey, I really hope Skip loses those 3 games to Texas.
I feel you. Well, I'm going to go Tennessee just because they're the worst baseball fans I've ever encountered in my life. And
that's why you asked. You were waiting for that one. Like you had that holstered ready to go.
And I wish them nothing but the worst in baseball only. So that'll be my answer. That'll be a fun series for sure. Plus, you get the whole real UT argument and all that good stuff.
Look, just because Schloss is going to have a tough time going back to College Station doesn't mean you need to make yourself public enemy number one in Knoxville, Blake.
Good point.
I don't need your picture. I don't need to hear reports when the football series happens in the fall, like your face is up at gas stations, restaurants.
Have you seen this man? Oh, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Bases Loaded. Of course, we'll be back next week. So for Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel, I'm Blake Munroe, and we'll see you then.